So I am super excited to chat with Annika Carroll as we will be talking about how to get better quality sleep. Again, very excited for this conversation. And let me go ahead and dive into Annika's bio here. So, Annika Carroll is a functional sleep and health coach for high achieving women and owner of Sleep Like a Boss. Annika is committed to helping women in midlife take back control of their sleep, restore their energy, and avoid burnout so they could thrive both at work and in their personal lives. Her approach gets to the core of sleep struggles, tackling issues like hormone imbalances, gut health, and daily habits because sleep problems are really just in your head. And thank you so much for joining us, Annika.
Hi, Eric. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be an amazing conversation. So many different people have sleep issues. And before we talk about this, let's get a little bit more of your background. What led you to become a functional sleep and health coach?
Well, the fact that my sleep went out the window, surprisingly, and never wanted to return, no matter what I was doing. And I literally had no clue what was going on because in my 20s, I used to hit the pillow, be out, and be up 30 minutes before the alarm went off in the morning. And I would go all day. I was fine. And I had my child. I went back to work a year later in my 30s. I got sick. I had food poisoning, which I never recovered from for a long time. Doctors couldn't figure out what was going on with me, and I couldn't sleep anymore. I would be every night, I'd be up from like 1 to 4, and it was driving me insane. And I started developing this fear of going to bed, of, oh my God, this is going to happen again. This is another horrible night. And I completely ran into burnout. Like there was a point where I could not go to work anymore because I was just not capable. I was spending time on the couch, like a lot of time on the couch. And doctors ran test after test after test of the test that they run. So blood work, they looked at stool. They looked for H. pylori in my gut, but they apparently didn't find anything. And then like everything under the planet, and they didn't figure it out. And basically told me to see a therapist, and which I did, and but it didn't really. It helped a little for things that I had to work on, but not with my sleep issues. And then I found a functional practitioner, but I was actually looking for her for hormonal imbalances, so period problems and all that kind of stuff, and anxiety and things. And then my sleep started getting better. And then I put two and two together, and I found somebody who was in a functional space and was doing something with sleep. And I was like, well, yeah, this is what I really want to do, because I was a functional practitioner by then. Because sleep is just our superpower, I think. If we don't have it, we just don't feel good and we can't do anything. And if we get good night's sleep, it's just the foundation for everything. And that's just why. And you, like you're saying, so many people are struggling. Some of them don't even know, and a lot of people just don't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. So you said you developed food poisoning, and then it was after that incident where you started having sleep issues right
Yes.
after having food
Well,
poisoning?
I did have before that, there was I had a very traumatic birth with my son. That was a very stressful time with, so there was some trauma there that I hadn't dealt with, but I was fine. I was at work. I was super busy. Um and then work kind of slowed down, and I was good, and everything was fine. And then I had this food poisoning, and it never really went, like I couldn't eat anything anymore for months after. I was on oatmeal and bananas, and everything else I put into my body was not good. And I looked like I was 6 months pregnant every night. And and then you start self experimenting with, oh, let's do some live probiotics and stuff. And it's like, oh my God, everything just got worse. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. And the doctors are like, I'm not finding anything. Like, I've looked at your blood, it's amazing. I've looked at your stool, I can't find anything. You're totally, it's all in your head. And then I went, and I saw a gastroenterologist, and he basically gave me an IBS diagnosis. And that was about when I had never heard of IBS because I wasn't in the space. And I started reading about it, and that was in Germany because I'm originally from Germany. And they were very vague in what they were. I'm like, this is just, how can you even diagnose this? This isn't anything. Like from what they were writing, I'm like, this cannot be an answer. Yeah, and then I started digging, and then yeah, kind of doors opened.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I guess, I mean, it's related to it because it relates to your story, and that's what caused the sleep issues. But with food, when think of food poisoning and then gut issues, I think of SIBO because I know that there's damage. Damage could take place to the migrating motor complex when having food poisoning, and that could actually relate to IBS.
Yeah,
But most GI docs won't look into SIBO. They'll just give you a
exactly.
diagnosis. It's IBS, and not do like a breath test to see if you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. But it's just very interesting. You don't usually relate food poisoning with sleep, and it's just so many different factors, of course, can cause sleep. And you also mentioned the fear of going to bed. And so how big of a problem is that, like when someone develops a sleep issue, and initially it could be so many different things, as we mentioned. So maybe it starts out as physiological, but then becoming more of that fear, more of that mental aspect. I assume that's pretty common.
It is pretty common, and it actually, um, I think it sometimes even is the reverse that we just have a stressful period, like everybody does in life, right? We don't know that there's anything with our bodies because we don't understand what stress does to the gut, for instance. So we just assume we're in stress, going through a stressful time, and this is going to settle down, and then sleep should come back, which in a healthy body would be the case. But then for a lot of people, even during that stressful time, they already start panicking. They start having that fear. And then we get into this vicious cycle that our body is in a constant fight or flight. It's in constant stress just about the fact that we try to sleep and think about it too much. And then it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you like self-sabotage with this whole fear cycle because sleep is passive. We can't force it. If the body is safe to relax, the body will eventually sleep. And if it's not, for whatever reason, whether there's a physical stressor like your gut and all the other things that we talk about, or something that's in your mind, and that might be very real, there might be something you're going through that is very stressful, or it might be something that is just a story that we have now created and say, oh my God, I just worry so much about what's tomorrow's going to be an awful day if I don't sleep again. And if I wake up at 2 again, I'm just going to lose my mind and I can't perform at work tomorrow and the kids and everything, right? Then it's just, we have to break that cycle.
Yeah. Well, so what are some approaches? I mean, I know we're kind of like jumping ahead and we're definitely going to talk about other topics, but I experienced that as well. So, I mean, I can't say I've had like lifelong sleep issues, but there was a time in my life where I did start having sleep issues and it did become more psychological. And I know with me, I just kind of just trained myself to get out of it, just doing some mind body medicine and just not checking the clock in the middle of the night and things like that. But so what are like some things for someone who's listening, and if it is that stressful component and really just where it becomes that emotional cycle where it's like just thinking every night before going to bed, am I going to be waking up at 2 in the morning, or am I going to be able to fall asleep to begin with?
I think the first thing, and this is hard to do, is to accept it. To if it starts raining outside, we just don't worry about that too much. We kind of grab an umbrella and still go. And with sleep, it's kind of like that. It's if we can get to the point where we say, okay, I might be waking up at 2 again, and I might not get a lot of sleep. It's not going to kill me. I've done this before. I'm going to be okay. Am I going to be tired? And is it annoying? Yes. And we can accept that too. We don't have to push that away. We just have to get to a point of saying, okay, and I'm going to figure this out. And I often have clients literally do that throughout the day, that whenever this thought comes back in, because you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And then immediately comes this, oh no, this is going to be another bad night. And that we, in that moment, start catching ourselves and say, okay, it's going to be okay. Whatever happens is going to be okay. And I'm going to start figuring this out. And I'm really going to start looking at that. And that's okay. And we don't want to go to, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to have an awesome sleep. If you say that to yourself, your body and your brain is literally going to be like, no. my safe zone, my brain thinks waking up at night is okay. That's what keeps it safe right now. And we're trying to change that. So that poses a threat on the brain. If you're making changes too quickly, that's why you often can't sustain them. So we go very slowly. We say, yeah, I'm going to figure this out. Not I have the solution and it's going to be great tomorrow, but I'm on a process. Most people also don't get to like disastrous sleep from today to tomorrow. So getting into it took a while. So getting out of it might take a little, and really be easy on yourself. And then start looking at what's happening during the day. Are there moments where you can just breathe? You know, if you're tired, can you take 5 minutes where you just do nothing? Listen to your favorite song, go outside, just take small breaks, because that restores your energy too. And that just gives your body a little bit of leeway, so to say, to recover. And the other thing, and people are going to be like, she's crazy, don't move your bedtime forward. Do not try to make up for that lost sleep by going to bed at 8 p.m. if your normal bedtime is 10:30. Your body works on a rhythm. And if you start moving that back and forth because there was bad nights of sleep, so I'm going to bed at 8 now because I'm actually so tired that I could fall asleep on the couch, try and not do it, because you're messing with your body's rhythm and your body gets even more confused. So try to get closer to the 9:30, 10 o'clock and then go to sleep. And then often we build enough sleep pressure that we can carry that through better, or at least fall asleep quickly again when we wake up.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I know the what a lot of these interviews, it's like, let's go over some points and then at the end kind of give like the like, how do we overcome the sleep issues? But again, it's such a big factor, and I just wanted to, to conquer the emotional part, the stress part of sleep. So I appreciate you talking about this. But there are other factors that I want to talk about, and diet, blood sugar, it definitely is a big factor. So if you could talk about the impact of blood sugar imbalances on sleep and insomnia.
Yeah. So if it's a biggie, I would say it's probably 80% of my clients who struggle with waking up. There is a component of blood sugar dysregulation in there. So if you're somebody who struggles with the wakings and you're like, I cannot fall back asleep, I don't know what's going on, let's have a look at blood sugar. Our blood sugar should be reasonably stable throughout the day and the night. So what happens if we eat? Yes, our blood sugar will go up because we put glucose into the system. That will get absorbed into the cells with the help of insulin. And then our blood sugar comes down a little again, stays hopefully somewhat stable. And if that happens throughout the night too, then we're good. What often happens throughout the night, for multiple reasons that we can go into, is that our blood sugar drops too low. And if that happens, our body wakes us up because it's a stress response. The body thinks you're basically dying. You need food. Your blood sugar is too low. How does the body generate that in that moment? Because you're not up and eating quick enough. It will break down tissue, muscle tissue, to create energy for glucose. And that requires cortisol. And cortisol is our awake hormone. It's often called the stress hormone, but it's basically also your awake hormone, and what gives you energy, because that's its main job. That's how it does that. It provides glucose to the system. And if that happens, your cortisol goes up. It might not even shoot up completely, but it goes up a certain amount that might be enough to suppress your melatonin that should be helping you with sleep at night. And then cortisol is up and you're up. And you're like, oh, I could, whatever to do. I could clean the house now. I could plan a vacation. I'm just totally up. And it's going to take you 60 to 90 minutes to fall back asleep, because that's how long the body needs to break that cortisol down. So melatonin is strong enough again to help you fall back asleep and then hopefully stay asleep. And then often it's 4 o'clock, it's 4:30. And then people are like, you know what? That hour and a half, might as well get up, start doing emails and work and do whatever, right? And then we've we've shifted so much in our cycle and in our biology that it's a total mess. And then if you've had a bad night like that, you might notice that you start gravitating towards crappy foods the next day, like the muffins, the really starchy things, the ultra processed quick fixes for energy, the chocolates, the whatnot. And that is normal. That's not great, but that is normal. The body needs that energy. And just the carbs provide that energy very quickly. And then we send our blood sugar on a roller coaster again because we're putting a lot of sugar into the system. And what goes up comes down. So then it crashes. Then we need more sugar again. Then that falls down. And then we do that whole thing the next day. And that continues overnight again. And with that, we can really establish another one of these vicious cycles. So if we can keep our blood sugar in a better space throughout the day, we're likely setting it up for success at night.
And obviously, eating well, eating whole, healthy foods, avoiding or at least minimizing refined foods and sugar is important. How about eating at night? Like, when do you typically recommend for people to stop eating?
Um, that really, it depends a bit on the person. If you're having a big dinner, like a lot of people eat dinner as one of their largest meals of the day, I would try and finish 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed. Things like Thanksgiving dinners and things, right? Like the big stuff, 3 hours before. If it's your normal dinner, maybe 2 is okay too, because often for people it doesn't fit in otherwise. But the earlier you can move it, generally the better, because your body has digested everything and it doesn't need to digest while you're sleeping, which helps you have more restorative sleep. However, if you have a blood sugar dysregulation problem, then we sometimes play with snacks.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was just
Yeah.
about to ask you, is there a time and place for eating right before going to bed?
Yes, there might be. However, it is not something we want to do forever. We want to get your blood sugar organized. But to help you avoid that ditch at night where you wake up, if you within like half an hour, sometimes for people an hour is okay too. It really depends. But like 30 to 60 minutes before they go to bed, eat something. And you hear different things. If you're on the internet, like some people say it should be a protein snack, people say other things. What I've been successful with my clients really is a balanced snack. So some protein, a little bit of fat, and a little bit of starchy carbs. Because if it's a dip in blood sugar, we need some glucose in there in that snack to avoid that dip. And the protein just helps us, and the fat just helps us to slow that digestion down and carry that whole response a little better. So people often like to eat, if you can do dairy, like a little bit of Greek yogurt, even with some blueberries in it, or I'm very much on the gluten-free front, so gluten-free crackers, maybe with a little bit of hummus in it on them, or some sticks with hummus, or celery sticks, that kind of stuff, if you like that. Some olives with crackers, a little bit of cheese, if dairy is your thing, can work. A little piece of chicken, or like a small bite with something with it, like olives or something. Some people go with fruit. It depends, right? Like I wouldn't eat a whole banana. It's just very high on the glycemic index, so it can really mess with your blood sugar. Small piece of it, maybe with a yogurt, could be okay. It's a bit of a trial for what the person reacts to well. And if you're somebody who wakes up in the middle of the night and is actually hungry, because sometimes people are like, that is definitely a sign that you're waking up because of your blood sugar. Because then you didn't eat enough throughout the day.
Okay. Makes sense. So you said you don't recommend for people to do that long term. Like you don't want them forever to be having a snack right before going to bed. So how long usually should someone expect to be eating snacks before going to bed and ultimately break the cycle? And again, I know it's different but are we talking about where someone might be doing this for maybe a week or a couple of months on average?
I would say probably 1 to 2 months is more what I'm seeing, if you're consciously working on stabilizing your blood sugar throughout the day.
Mhm.
If you're not, this might be a longer thing.
Yeah.
And is it is it really harmful to do that? If your caloric intake throughout the day is fine, like if we're not overeating because of that, maybe not. Like I personally, I think if you get restorative sleep with it, that is probably more healing than not having sleep. But overall, just metabolic health and blood sugar regulation is just so critical for overall health that it would be always my preference for somebody to work on that. So that is not what's sabotaging their sleep anymore.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. How about blue light, electronic pollution? What impact does that have on sleep? Because a lot of people, I mean, more and more people are familiar and aware of the impact, but there's still a lot of people, I think, who dismiss that and they're still on their iPhone or just on the computer before going to bed. Like, what impact can that have on sleep?
Oh, it can have a big impact in the sense that um, the blue light that's emitted especially when you're on your phone or on your computer, it is very close to your face, right? So it shines like right into your eyes. And this can suppress melatonin release in adequate amounts. So that will hinder you to sleep well because we need a good amount of melatonin to sleep well. So that is really something that, and people are like, do I just put on like the filter that Apple provides, right? Like, yeah, that's a first step. That's great. There is also blue light filters. There's blue light blocking glasses that people can wear. If you actually want to make a dent into that, well, the easiest is just don't use them, right? At night. Just avoid them. Put your phone to bed, like literally put your phone to bed. Buy yourself an alarm clock that is analog, the old school little squares from Amazon for $10 and use that as your alarm clock. Then that's your best bet. No push notifications coming in the middle of the night that light up your phone and vibrate on the nightstand and stuff. That's a big one. Otherwise, if you go into blue light blocking glasses at night, if that's your thing, if you want that to really work, they got to be the orange ones. The clear ones are mainly during the day to filter off the light from the screen so we don't get tired eyes that much. With sleep, they don't really show in the data that it is a significant increase in melatonin and it helps you. That's really what the red light bulbs or the orange blue light filters do. EMF in general, so electromagnetic fields, is another thing, right? Some people are very sensitive to that, some more than others. We are all surrounded by EMFs all the time, right? Like it's inevitable. We live with electronic devices, and it doesn't even have to be your phone, right? It can be technically your toaster does it. Anything you plug in, your power lines that you live by, right? Anything. It's just it and our ones, like the everyday use appliances, are more low grade EMF. But I think it's often the sum of the individual things, right? We're not just using a toaster. No, we're on cell phones, computers at the same time. Basically, we have the phone looking at the screen. And these things I would really keep out of the bedroom, right? The bedroom is for sleep, and keep everything out of there that shouldn't be in there, because it can really make a difference for people. It's often that they're like, I don't think that's my problem. And then if we just do that simple step, they already notice that it's shown to affect your nervous system. It's shown that EMFs affect your immune system, right? Like there's studies that prove that. So, and if you're just somebody who was on the more sensitive side of that spectrum, or your bucket is just full, these types of things can just tip them over the edge, right? Even if it's by itself, it wouldn't be maybe that big of a story. It's just might be one of those puzzle pieces.
All right. Well, great advice. And what are some other things? What are maybe one or two other factors that can affect sleep that are either common or uncommon? Pretty much whatever you want to chat about.
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I see besides stress, because stress, like we're go, go, go all day. We never take breaks, right? We just expect to hit the pillow and fall asleep and sleep through, and then it doesn't happen because we never take breaks and we're just on all the time. The other thing is just that we don't spend enough time outside. It's really that simple. And they kind of go together, actually, with the stress part. Our body functions best if it has a lot of natural light, because that natural light gives the body information of what time of the day it is. And why is that important for the body? Because it knows, oh, I need to release digestive hormones. Oh, I need to make sex hormones now. Oh, I need to release cortisol. Oh, I need to make melatonin because now we're soon going to bed. And the body knows that through the hues of the light and the angle at which the sun rays fall onto your retina in your eye. And we have totally ignored this, I think, for decades. And with the technology coming on, we have just totally forgotten about this. And cubicles and people sitting in boxes all day and not even, or in factories or whatever, right? And not seeing daylight. I was giving a talk a couple of weeks ago in a hotel. So like one of those big rooms. So it's a conference center, actually, but one of those big rooms. And we were in there and I was like, can anybody tell me what time it is without checking the time? And they're like, no. I'm like, see, this is exactly what happens. You have no idea. If there's no windows, you literally, or if you work in the basement without way, you literally have no clue what time it is. You need to go outside and give that input. And that, I think if people do that and stay off their phones at night and their devices and really take time and breathe and enjoy life, like in the moment, and not envy people on social media or follow every trend that we see, I think they'll be a lot better with their sleep, because the nervous system just calms down. And with that, all your systems will improve over time, right? Your hormones balance out, your gut balances out, because this is all a problem, because all this stress causes all these issues. And so we have to address fixing the gut, fixing the hormones, but taking that stress component so the body can get back into homeostasis and maintain that too, right?
Yeah. And I mean, going outside, something I could also improve on too, and something I have been working on, just as I'm sure you could relate, other people could relate. It's you just get busy with whatever you're doing. And in my case, not only working with patients or doing these podcast interviews, or I mean, there's so many different things, and it's a matter of choosing. I mean, I try to get some sun in the morning, but also like to get some in the middle of the day. And quite frankly, sometimes I don't, because it's a matter of choosing. Do I need to get this task done, for example, and sacrifice the 10-15 minutes? And maybe I should compromise at times and say, well, even if I go outside for 3 to 5 minutes, that's better than not going out at all. But again, sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. So I do need to be more consistent. So thanks for reminding me, as well as letting all the listeners know too.
And the other thing, maybe one thing I often see with women, particularly though, alcohol. Because we've talked about diet, right? Alcohol is like that red wine at night. Yes, you fall asleep faster, but your sleep is bad quality. And it's a thing. I understand we are anxious, we're busy, we just want like a few minutes of, oh my God, let's watch Netflix and drink that wine. It's for you, if you're struggling with sleep or you don't have energy, it is not a good idea. It's been proven, like it's counterproductive. It doesn't help. And there, rather maybe finding something that you enjoy, and or what, actually asking that question of what's missing. Why do I need that wine? What could I be doing instead to relax? Or what do I need? Is it a phone call with a friend, right? Is it connection? Is it maybe I just want to sit there and watch something, but then maybe drink something else, and that doesn't have alcohol in it, right? Really, that is a big one often that I see, that when we, like, if I actually ask the question, like I have it on my intake form, but it's like if we actually go into that conversation and it's like, oh yeah, can we take that out? Because it's gonna make a difference.
So even having just a single glass of red wine, for example, can affect sleep quality?
Yes, and it's like there are studies that show it. For women, it really helps with falling asleep, because it's that sedating relaxing effect of the wine, but it messes with your deep sleep and with your REM sleep. And that's why often the hangover in the morning isn't just, oh my God, my liver couldn't handle it, which is part of it. And the older we get, the bigger problem this becomes too. But it's often that you didn't get sleep. You didn't get enough sleep, and there is still too much hormone in the system that should have been cleared out just from sleeping.
How about caffeine? If someone is having sleep issues, is it okay for them to have a cup of coffee, let's say early in the morning, or a cup of green tea? Or is that something they should also avoid completely if they're having problems falling and or staying asleep at night?
Um, that is a bit of an individual thing, but I think for most people, having a coffee before lunch or a tea, green tea, is okay. For most people, it metabolizes at a point, like coffee can metabolize very slowly. So you can still have caffeine in the system very late at night. If you're somebody who can't fall asleep, I would actually consider trying decaf for a little and see how that goes, because the falling asleep, to me, there could be caffeine still in the system, right? The waking up is not so likely, but the falling asleep, if you're somebody who struggles with anxiety, leave the coffee out and see what happens to the anxiety. It's often a thing. Like for women, I often see it. It's like then when we're taking out, they're like, oh, my anxiety is better. Or if we really, because we're so tired and like some of my clients can then barely function, right? Then it's like sometimes I switch them to something like a matcha. If they're like the coffee with milk drinkers, then we do like a latte, a matcha latte in the morning, because that green tea is slow release caffeine. You get a bit of a boost, but you don't get the caffeine like up and down.
Mhm.
The other thing, if it's just like brain foggy type stuff, maybe look into lion's mane. Is something I find works really well on the brain fog. And then sometimes we might not need the caffeine, but caffeine is really like, it's an individual thing. And the one thing I would try to not do, don't make that the first thing in the morning. Don't make it like you're waking up, you're groggy, make it to the coffee machine. That's your thing with nothing else, and it hits the system. If you're not sleeping and you're likely already super exhausted, like that really pushes your body very hard, and it's going to drop very quickly. And likely at around 10, you're going to be reaching for ultra processed foods or something for more energy, or another coffee, because you just cannot sustain that level that you pushed your body to. Then we rather need to work on getting you more energy in the morning so you can then have the coffee, and it kind of carries you a little bit into the afternoon.
All right, wonderful. Supplements. So
Mhm.
you always want to try to address the cause of the problem. So whether it's stress, so we spoke about blood sugar, the caffeine, the alcohol, whatever it is, you want to address those imbalances or whatever factor is causing the sleep issues. But there is a time and place for
Mhm.
supplementation. And what are some of your favorite supplements or some of the supplements you just commonly recommend, which might also be your favorite supplements? So if you could talk a little bit about some of the supplements, I guess assuming you recommend supplements at times to your clients, what are some of those supplements?
I do, but I often don't go for the full-on sleep supplement, because I want to get to the root cause, and I want to get away from the, if I'm already having fear of not sleeping and I put a pill in there to sleep, then I make myself potentially dependent on, oh, I can only sleep if I take that pill. And then we take that pill out and we have to go through that whole behavioral thinking process again of, I can sleep without a pill. So that's why I kind of go just on supportive supplements. So the one thing that I find helps really well is topical magnesium. So that can be a lotion or a spray. Lower legs or bottom of your feet every night consistently, because we're likely depleted in magnesium anyhow, and it's going to just take a while. But bottom of the feet, for some reason, what the skin absorbs very well, but it then seems to be going into the system very well, works really well for a lot of people. Um, Another one that I really like, if we have blood sugar issues, inositol. Inositol is, and I like it in a powder, and I actually put it in my matcha because it's sweet. It's kind of like, it's like, and it's natural to the body. We're still putting a synthetic supplement in, but it's natural to the body, and it helps regulate blood sugar, and it can really help people get over that night hump, even if you take it during the day. Some people, we sometimes play with it. Sometimes they take it more in the morning with their coffee, or some people take it before bedtime. That really depends, but that is something that I've seen works really well, until even in smallest doses, until we get that blood sugar stabilized. One that I also really like, depends. If a person is like, if we have somebody who's anxious and exhausted, rhodiola, something I often really like, but I would take it, I often then recommend it in the morning, not at night, just so we get through the day already a lot better. And one that I've been using, because I'm honestly not a huge fan of melatonin, because I've not had great success with it. A lot of clients haven't had great success with it. I use it sometimes to shift somebody's circadian rhythm, like if they sleep till 11 o'clock in the morning or 12, and we need to get them to get up at times that allow them to participate in the workforce. Then we sometimes do that at certain times of the day, a time release one. But what I like, I don't know if you've used the product, I've heard about it, Herbatonin.
No, have not heard of
I
it.
think it's the company that makes Feminescence, the maca products, as Symphony Natural Health, I think is what they're called.
Hmm.
And they have a plant-based melatonin, and it's called Herbatonin. It is because melatonin is not just a sleepy hormone; it's an antioxidant, a very strong antioxidant, and that has significantly more antioxidant properties than synthetic melatonin. And I've had really great success with it in very low doses. They have a 0.3 milligram capsule and a 3 milligram capsule. And I have a lot of hardcore not sleeping clients, and they go okay on 0.3 to 0.6. It often works even better in combination with a little bit of magnesium. And it doesn't give you that hangover effect at all. It could happen that you start dreaming weird things, but that happens on melatonin too, because once your body actually gets the deep sleep and then goes into the REM sleep, that it kind of catches up. But that is something that I sometimes like to use for the time that we're figuring out what's going on. Because often with the sleep clients, we have the inflammation, like the gut issues and things, right? And that antioxidant in there is just so nice. That we can get that oxidative stress and all the fun stuff that comes with the inflammation a little bit better in check, even throughout the night. So that's a product I'm really, really excited about, actually, because it's, yeah, it just works a bit differently, and it seems to be working okay. It doesn't work for everybody, like a lot of these things, right? It's always a bit of a trial, but it does work for quite a few people.
Okay, so herbatonin, maybe combining it with some topical magnesium
Yeah,
on a temporary
yeah,
basis, and the lower dose, like you said, a lot of people 3.5, I mean, zero point 0.3 to
or
zero
yeah.
point 0.6 milligrams. Okay, wonderful. So, what melatonin? If someone, let's say, and this person might not see you because they might be sleeping okay, but like I've come across some people who they've been taking melatonin for quite some time, years maybe, and so sleep is not an issue, and maybe it is related to because they're taking the melatonin, maybe not. But how would you approach that person? Would your approach be, well, they're taking melatonin, they're sleeping well, they've been on for a few years, let's just let them be? Or would you want to try to get them to the point where they're not relying on the melatonin? And for someone who's been on the melatonin for so long, is that possible?
Well, yeah, because what you're saying, we don't know, right? We don't know why how would they, if they came off, would they have trouble sleeping? Generally, they should not over a short period of time, because your body does not lose its ability to make melatonin. And the amount of melatonin that the brain releases to get you to sleep is marginal. It's tiny. in comparison to how much we weigh and how big we are, right? It's a teeny tiny amount. And the body kicks production back in. So there might be a bit of a rough period, but it should work. So it's hard to say. Am I somebody who thinks synthetic melatonin is great? No, I don't. We don't have studies that say it's harmful. Melatonin per se is, because it's such a strong antioxidant, is being looked at like in cancer treatments and things, right? Like, are they going to give certain treatments throughout the night in the future with melatonin? Because we know melatonin levels in general are higher at night, so the body could maybe work with the treatment better and can handle the treatment better. But personally, I think we can do it without. If the body's healthy, we can do it without. And should we give the body something it doesn't need? Not necessarily. And that's why I'm such a fan of this plant-based one, because it literally just has 3 ingredients. It has, I think, chlorella, rice, and alfalfa sprout in it, and that's it. And if that is what it takes versus a synthetically made thing that you buy at the health food store in the UK, prescription only, because it's technically a hormone, right? Then I would recommend that people at least look into how can they change it. But there's also a question: why do you, like, the easiest question for me is, again, this: how do you work with light and darkness, right? Melatonin is the darkness hormone. Is your bedroom dark? Are you avoiding lights at night? Are you giving your body everything it needs to make that melatonin? Does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely does. So thank you. Before wrapping it up, I have just 2 more questions. One is if there's anything else that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you, anything else you'd like to discuss? And then the second question is, when should someone consider working with someone like you to work with a sleep specialist?
No, I think sleep has, like, you can talk about it for weeks, right? Like, there's so many things. So I think the questions that you asked are great. I think they're the ones that people often ask, right? That are important to an audience. Um, when should someone reach out to somebody like me? I think whenever you're not satisfied with your sleep, when you wake up and either you didn't sleep well or you even sleep okay, you get a good amount in, but you're still exhausted, because then there's something's not right. If you know that you're somebody who has some issues here and there, right? It's like, either your periods are wonky, maybe you're getting into the menopausal, postmenopausal stage even, and your sleep's gone, because that happens a lot, right? Um, or if you're somebody, there is a bit of digestive issue. Sometimes people have no symptoms, but a lot of people actually do if we dive into it. Um, and you're struggling with energy and you're struggling with sleep, then I think it's a good idea. If you're somebody who snores or whose partner says, I think you stop breathing, sometimes I kind of touch you and then you keep breathing again, then first, please go see a sleep specialist, in the sense of somebody who assesses for sleep apnea, because a lot of people are underdiagnosed. And that might not fix your overall sleep problem, but it's something that should definitely be looked at. And that's something I can only then, I ask questions for that. I would, like, symptomatically assess you for that, but I would then have to send you somewhere anyways. And
Yeah.
because that's not my specialty. Yeah, but really, a lot of people don't know that something like what I do exists. But it is important, and you don't need to struggle. Like, you need to sleep. If you go, I have clients who go 30, 35 years with horrible sleep, and you see it at their age. Like, it wasn't good. It wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, definitely agree. And again, unfortunately, a lot of people experience sleep issues with only getting 4 or 5 hours per night. Some people obviously less than that. So I'm so glad that there are functional medicine practitioners like you out there helping people to get better sleep, to get more quality sleep. And that being said, how can more people find out? How can people find out more about you, Annika?
Yeah, you can follow, you can check out sleeplikeaboss.com. That's my website. You could listen to the podcast. I have a Sleep Like a Boss podcast you've been on, where we talk all kinds of functional health and sleep. I am on social media. I'm not as active there as I probably should be, but I try to stay off as much as I can. So that's Sleep Like a Boss on Facebook, and that's underscore Annika Carroll on Instagram. Yeah, but I think that like the easiest is probably the website.
Okay. I'll make sure to include the links in the show notes, of course. And again, thank you so much. Thank you for getting together. And again, like I mentioned before we started recording, it's been a while since I had someone focus on sleep on the podcast. So, and you shared some great strategies, important information. And again, appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.